Yo, what up? Josh here from Budget Church Livestreaming. Livestreaming at your church can be a daunting task. Where do I start? What do I buy? How do I set everything up? In this video, I'm going to do a high-level overview of every essential element to running a successful live stream. I'll provide recommendations to get you started, as well as some next steps. Let's get into it. There are a lot of different considerations you have to make when deciding to start live streaming your church. Like what cameras to use, how are you going to set up the lighting, do I need to buy a jib, do I set up dolly track systems, what comm systems am I going to use, how many views am I going to get, am I going to have people commenting, responding to comments, prayer requests, church online, YouTube, Facebook. It's enough to make anybody go crazy. But before you go out and buy a bunch of gear, it would probably be good to know what the essentials are just to get a video of your church onto the internet. I'm going to break this all down into two categories. One is just the essential, I want to get a video feed of me onto the internet. This is the cheap one. And two, how do I set up a broadcast that will scale for my church, allow for multi-camera angles, and lead us into the future of broadcast with a lot of possibilities? Let's get started with the first category. A lot of churches just want a basic video feed going to Facebook so that congregants who are sick or traveling can keep up with that week's messages. This is the easiest and cheapest scenario. In fact, all you need to get started is something that every person in your church probably has in their pocket right now. One of these. That's right, we can stream with just a cell phone. The cameras in our cell phones are incredibly powerful these days. And while no, they're not going to create the most cinematic or compelling live stream you've ever seen, they'll do more than enough to get your sermons onto the internet for your congregation. Now, unfortunately, YouTube has some requirements that a channel has to meet before you can start streaming to it from a cell phone. However, every Facebook user is able to do it by default, so you can get started today. For this setup, all you're going to need is a small tripod with a cell phone mount. I'll link a couple of options in the description below, and a cell phone. Simply put the phone on the tripod and place that in a good spot in your church that has a great angle of the stage and decent audio. Start streaming to Facebook and you're off to the races. Now, like I said, this live stream is not going to win any awards, and to be honest, the worship portion of your service probably won't be very good, but it should be more than enough to get a feed of your sermon to your missing congregants. Now, although this option is easy, I'm sure most of you are wanting something more than this. You don't want to be limited to the camera quality of a cell phone, plus you want multiple angles, and you really want to build up a live stream that looks and feels good and represents your church well. That brings us on to the second scenario, a true multi-camera broadcast. There are quite a few things involved in setting up a quality broadcast, and honestly, most of them are things that the majority of people don't have any experience with. I'm going to do my best to break things down into the simplest terms at a very high level so that you can walk away from this video having a general understanding of what's required. Each part has many layers that we can dig deeper into, but we're going to save those for separate videos. So the things you'll need for a full broadcast are cameras, a video switcher, a way to get audio from your service into your video switcher, and a video encoder. Let's dig into each of those in a bit more detail. First off, cameras. Now, right off the bat, there are so many different types of cameras that you can use for a church live stream, so I won't even begin to try to list them all here. However, there are some common things that you'll need from a camera, regardless of which one you go with. The biggest thing to look for is a camera that can give you what's called a clean output. Most cameras have a way to get an output from the camera to a TV or something of the nature, whether that be through HDMI, a mini HDMI, SDI, whatever your camera has. However, not every camera has a clean output. And what that means is an output that's free of any settings, display options, battery status, etc. Basically the things that would show up on your camera. You don't want anybody at home worshiping and then all of a sudden they're distracted by a blinking red light saying that the camera's recording. Now, most cameras made specifically for broadcast have a clean output, and that's not an issue. However, there's a lot of cameras that are a lot cheaper and easier to get your hands on that also have a clean output and are perfectly suited to live broadcast. Just make sure that whatever camera you're looking to buy has a clean output feed. The second thing you're going to want to look at is the overall type of camera. Now, I know I said I wasn't going to list every type of camera, and I'm not, but there are some categories that cameras fall into. The main types you'll see in churches are camcorders, PTZ, which stands for pan, tilt, zoom, DSLRs or mirrorless cameras, cinema cameras, and then more professional, traditional broadcast cameras. I'll have some sample links to all types in the description below, but let's dig into each one of them in a little bit more detail just so you know what to look for. First off, camcorders. They're kind of like the jack of all trades camera. They're not extremely good at any one thing, although they generally have a lot of user-friendly features that will make it easy to get up and running with them. Usually camcorders have a single, non-changeable lens. Generally speaking, it's a motorized zoom lens, so you get a lot of flexibility there, but not having the ability to choose a specific lens for your camera does limit you a little bit. Camcorders are easy to set up and use, and you can often get them fairly cheap. However, they'll probably limit you in the long run if you're looking to create a bit more of a cinematic broadcast. Next up is PTZ cameras. And like I said before, that stands for pan, tilt, zoom. And that's because that's what the cameras do. They pan, tilt, and zoom. What that means is that they have motors inside of them that allow you to pan, tilt, and zoom them, so basically control them from somewhere else in the building. This means that these cameras don't need to have an operator standing with them in order to add motion and be able to refocus them. This has a huge benefit in churches that don't have a lot of space for cameras or want to keep their cameras a little bit tucked away and hidden. PTZs are often mounted on the ceiling or on the wall of a church, or even on a column in the middle of the building. Like camcorders, they have smaller sensors, and so their image won't be as clear as some other camera options. They also don't have the flexibility of changing out lenses, which again we've explored already. There are some more expensive PTZs that are hitting the market these days that are checking a few more boxes, but at this point, I still think they fit a very specific need, and if you don't fall into that, I would stay away from them. Next up is the category of DSLR or mirrorless cameras. Now, this is the type of camera that you're probably the most familiar with. It's the ones that you'll see people filming with at weddings or even taking pictures at weddings. Using them for video is a little bit more of a recent development, but one that's great for churches. These cameras fall into a price point that is perfect for a church, especially considering how you can expand them and build upon them. For example, they give you a lot of flexibility in how you can set them up. Because they're small, you can use them handheld or mount them on a tripod. These cameras also have the ability to mount whatever type of lens on them you want. Even if you buy a less expensive mirrorless camera, you can still mount expensive lenses on it using adapters. The biggest thing to consider with this type of camera is the sensor size. The size of the sensor is going to affect the quality of the image you can get out of a camera. This is because the bigger the sensor is, the more light it lets in, and the more light, the better the picture. There are a handful of different sensor sizes, and I won't explore them in this video here, but just as a general rule of thumb, the smaller the sensor, the cheaper the camera for the most part. That doesn't mean that all small sensors are bad though. For example, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera is a great option and many churches are using them, and it has a micro four thirds sensor. I'll link some other options below as well, but just suffice to say, if you're looking at a camera from Panasonic, Sony, Canon, Blackmagic, you're probably gonna have some great options. As a general rule, you're going to want to match the brand that you use across the board because each brand deals with color a little bit differently. So just keep that in mind. The next category we're going to look at is cinema cameras. Now these have a lot of the same pros and cons as the last batch, the mirrorless cameras, but to the extreme. Cinema cameras are more the type that they actually use on professional movie sets, and as such, they produce a great image, mainly due to their large sensors and advanced processing on the inside. Cinema cameras are also a lot less ready to use out of the box. For example, the Red Komodo, popularized by churches such as Bethel, doesn't come with a handle or a monitor or really much of anything that you need to actually start using it. By the time you build out these cameras, they're going to run you quite a pretty penny. If you're just starting out, I would generally say this category doesn't make a lot of sense from a budget perspective, but wow, they look nice. Finally, we have the more traditional professional broadcast cameras. This is going to be the most expensive category, but wow, they come with a lot of features that are built specifically for live broadcast. These are falling out of style a bit in the church world as we shift more from a traditional broadcast to more of a cinematic video style, but they definitely still have their place. They have tons of features that really make them worth it in this environment, such as huge sensors, extremely low latency, which is useful for in-house magnification or IMAG, professional inputs and outputs, extremely long zoom lenses available to them, and so much more. However, I'm just going to say, if you're unsure if you need one, you probably don't. Now, only you can decide what type of camera fits your church's needs, whether that's because of style or because of budget. It might be some combination of both. I would just say make sure to keep these tips in mind, do your research, and shop wisely. The next thing you'll need for your broadcast is a video switcher. The video switcher is a device that all of your cameras will plug into. The person operating the switcher will then choose which one of the camera feeds are going to go out to your live stream on the internet. Now, there are two main types of switchers: hardware switchers and software switchers. So let's look at hardware switchers first. Hardware switchers are devices built specifically for switching, as the name suggests. Now what this means is they are incredibly good at this one job because they are purpose-built for it. However, it also means you're going to spend a lot of money for something that only does one thing, which some people have a problem with. Just know that they're built for this and they do a good job at it. Switchers also generally have a lot of features built into them, such as chroma keying, picture-in-picture, and other things, specifically made for broadcast. There's a wide variety of hardware switchers available for different budgets and different use cases. However, for most churches, especially if you're just starting out with live streaming, you cannot go wrong with Blackmagic. They've released so many great options in their ATEM series that you'll definitely find something to suit your needs perfectly. I'll link some below. The other option for switching is what's known as a software switcher, which seems pretty obvious. It's a piece of software that runs on a computer that takes the place of a hardware switcher. Some of the main benefits of a software switcher is the cost and the portability. Software switchers can run on a variety of different computers that can then be used for other things throughout the week, since you're probably only live streaming 1 or 2 days. Plus, you might already have a computer sitting around that you could run one on. However, there are some very real downsides to a software switcher. First of all, the most obvious is latency. Because hardware switchers are built specifically for broadcast switching, there is very little latency or time between the image on the camera coming into the switcher and being output on the other end. However, software switchers, because they're just software running inside of a computer, build a lot of extra time in there. You may not notice this for just a broadcast to the internet, but if your church ever wants to move on to iMag, a software switcher is not going to be the way to go. There will be too much latency between what's happening on the stage and what's happening on the screen, and it will definitely be distracting. The second big downside is reliability. Again, hardware switchers, purpose-built for one thing. That means they generally just work. On the other hand, how many of you have had a piece of software just crash on you in the middle of doing something? Everyone. Now, the same thing can happen to a software switcher, but sometimes right in the middle of your church service. This is not a great thing to have happen, especially if there are people relying on your live stream going out. You also generally have to have a fairly powerful computer to run these switchers well, which could drive the cost up for you and negate that benefit. You also have to have a way to get your video feeds from your cameras into your computer, and computers generally don't have those built in. You're going to need some sort of capture card, whether that is a USB or some other type of device, to plug into your computer in order for your cameras to then be able to plug into it. These can get pretty expensive, especially if you're running more than one camera, so it can start to negate the cost benefits of the software switcher. The most common of these capture cards are made by Blackmagic and Elgato, but I'll link some below so you can take a look. If you've heard all of these pros and cons and still feel like you want to go the software route, some great options are OBS, vMix, and Wirecast, kind of depending on what type of computer you're using, a PC or a Mac. OBS is a free but powerful option that's great to get started on. It has a bit of a learning curve, but once you get it, you can do some powerful things. I'll link to these in the video description. Because of the potential reliability issues and latency problems of software switchers and the recent amazing offerings from companies such as Blackmagic, I generally am going to recommend a hardware switcher to anybody at this point. They have them at so many different price points that by the time you factor in all the things you'll need for a software switcher, I think a hardware switcher is the way to go, unless you have a very specific reason not to use one. Next up, audio. You do not want to rely on the audio coming from your cameras for your live stream. It won't be good. Cameras don't have great built-in microphones. You're in a church, so I'm going to assume that you already have a soundboard that all your microphones and instruments are running to for your Sunday service. The easiest solution for live stream audio is to just take a separate output from that soundboard and run it into your switcher. On a hardware switcher, that's incredibly easy. They all have audio inputs built right into them, so you'll just run a cable. A software switcher is going to be a little bit more difficult. You're going to have to get some sort of audio interface that'll plug in over USB, and then you can run your cable to that. Because audio mix for a live room doesn't necessarily sound great on a broadcast, you might want to have a separate mix set up specifically for your stream. This can be accomplished a variety of different ways. It can just be a separate mix bus coming from your soundboard over to your switcher, or you can run all of your individual channels straight into a separate soundboard or a digital audio workstation, or DAW, and mix separately there, and then go into your live stream. A mix bus is generally the easier option, but if you have the resources to do a completely separate mix for your live stream, it's definitely worth it. If for some reason setting up a separate mix for your live stream is a little bit difficult for you and you can't run directly from your soundboard, the last option you can go for is to just plug a microphone directly into your switcher and set it up at the back of your room. This will get you more of a live ambient mix, which won't be great, but will definitely still be better than the sound straight out of your cameras. Something to keep in mind with audio is that if somebody stumbles upon your live stream and the video isn't great, but the audio is amazing, they're much more likely to stay than if the reverse were true and the audio sounded bad. So you've got your audio coming into your switcher, you've got your cameras coming into your switcher, and ideally you have somebody back there pushing buttons and actually switching which camera is live at what point. But where is it going? How do we get it from the switcher to the internet? It's time for our final piece, the video encoder. The encoder is what takes your video feed and actually processes it and pushes it to YouTube or Facebook or wherever it is that you're going. Just like with the switcher, you generally have the option between a hardware encoder or a software encoder. And honestly, the pros and cons are pretty similar to that of the switcher. Not to sound like a broken record, but hardware encoders are purpose-built machines with one reason to exist: to take video sent into them and send them to the internet. However, the cost of hardware encoders definitely reflects how well they're going to do that. There are some great options out there from companies like Resi, Blackmagic, and Teradek. I'll link some of those below. In fact, Blackmagic's A10 Mini line actually has hardware encoders built into them, so you can switch and stream all from one device. This is a great option for a lot of churches. On the software side of things, you'll see something very similar, where most of the software switching solutions also have encoders built into them. The biggest downside to using these is the quality of the stream that's produced from these encoders. The quality is directly tied to the performance of your computer and the settings that you configure in your streaming software. Consumer level computers generally aren't performant enough to really do a great job at both switching and encoding, and so you'll see a lot more compression artifacts and general latency and slowness with your stream. However, if a software solution is what fits your church the best, don't sweat it. Our church switched and streamed using vMix for years, and honestly, we had great results. Just make sure to use a powerful enough computer for what you need, and you'll be great. Now, I know that was a lot, but that covers the essentials to live streaming. As I'm sure you can guess, there are a lot more details that we didn't cover here in order to really get up in streaming, but this should give you the basics and a good place to jump off from. There's also a lot more that we can explore, whether it's communication systems and headsets for your team, tally lights, streaming to multiple destinations like Facebook and YouTube and church online and wherever all at the same time, external recorders to keep a local copy of your stream, iMag, etc. The list goes on and on. However, don't get overwhelmed. We'll cover a lot of these in upcoming videos. Hopefully now you know a lot more than you did before about what's required to actually take your service and put it online. Drop a comment below with any questions, things that you think I missed, or if you put any of these suggestions into practice. I want to hear from you. Thanks, y'all. Until next time.